Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous, and I'm sorry for interrupting the hockey game. Hopefully, we will all get back to cheering for Team Canada. I'm joining you from Paris this evening, where I just led the delegation that represented Canada at the 2026 International Energy Agency Ministerial. We had the pleasure of being in Warsaw, Poland earlier this week to explore opportunities to strengthen energy cooperation, particularly on nuclear power, between Canada and Poland. As many of you have seen over the past few months, the Prime Minister, myself, and my ministerial colleagues have been deeply focused on strengthening trading relationships and expanding exports with our allies abroad. During the Prime Minister's speech in Dallas, he said aloud what many of our allies have all been thinking. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. And while nostalgia is not a strategy, our allies see Canada does have one. In fact, at Davos, the Prime Minister laid out a clear path forward for middle powers like Canada. We are positioning a path where we engage with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be, where we diversify exports and strengthen multilateralism so that we are never reliant on a single partner again, and where we build major energy and mining infrastructure projects at home so we can be our own best customer and a reliable supplier to our allies around the world, including Poland, France, and our partners in the G7 and the IEA. We were in Poland this week to do just that. Canada and Poland share a strong bilateral relationship, formalized in the Canada-Poland Strategic Partnership Joint Statement of August 2025, signed by Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Tusk. In that joint statement, one of the specific comments was to strengthen cooperation on nuclear energy. As part of their energy transition and goal to enhance energy security, Poland is in the process of exploring ways to reduce its reliance on coal. They are striving for an ambitious target of 6 to 9 gigawatts of installed large nuclear capacity by 2040, including building a second large-scale nuclear reactor. That is where Canada's nuclear expertise comes into play. As a Tier 1 nuclear nation, we have decades of expertise and a world-class supply chain, which is already supporting nuclear energy in Poland, helping us to build the first reactors as we speak. We would like to see that supply chain and the tens of thousands of Canadian workers it supports gain even more opportunities through new partnerships with Poland. Of course, while Canada helps build different types of nuclear reactors, we are specifically in Poland to discuss CANDU, our homegrown large-scale reactor technology. Canada has deployed 26 CANDU reactors around the world, including fairly close by in Romania. These reactors have delivered secure, low-carbon electricity to our partners, avoiding 30 million tons of pollution annually. CANDU technology offers our allies enhanced energy security. Our reactors run on natural uranium, removing the need for third country enrichment services, such as from Russia. This is relevant to the energy security of countries like Poland. Of course, Canada can also provide Poland with the world's highest quality uranium resources from Canadian companies like Cameco. Canadian industry has also an extraordinary record of maintaining our CANDU technology, with our past 8 domestic CANDU refurbishment projects being completed on time and on budget. Finally, CANDU reactors also help create localized supply chains and economic opportunities in the countries in which they are built. For example, CANDU reactors in Romania have created over 19,000 local jobs for Romanians. While in Warsaw, I had a productive meeting with my counterpart, Minister Mojitka, along with Mr. Wrochna, Minister Belzun, and Minister Zerdler. I also met with Polish energy companies, including PSE, PGE, and Orlen. In these meetings, we discussed nuclear energy, as well as opportunities in renewable energy, offshore wind, onshore wind, LNG, energy storage, and grid modernization. Moving to our delegation's time in the IAE, We spent the last 2 days in Paris laser focused on Canada's commitment to building a secure, diversified, and resilient global energy system. It was the oil embargo and economic turmoil it created in the world's major economies in the 1970s that led to the creation of the IEA. In this new era of disruption, institutions like the IEA matter more than ever. At the IEA, like in Davos, Canada's abundant resources and political leadership were noticed by our allies and prospective trading partners around the world. Our allies are looking to us as a reliable supplier of low-carbon fuels, nuclear technology, and critical minerals. These prospective trading partners are interested in making investments in Canada to create these opportunities. They see our commitment to democracy, sustainability, and multilateralism, and they want to work with us and learn from us. At the IEA, had a productive meeting with a number of private sector companies with interests in Canada, as well as meetings with our international counterparts from New Zealand, Norway, Turkey, France, the United States, and the EU. I also met with my Ukrainian counterpart, First Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Energy, Denis Shmyhal. Canada signed an MOU on energy cooperation, which addressed Ukraine's wartime energy needs and will benefit both countries in the long term by reinforcing energy infrastructure resilience against cyber and physical attacks and promoting expertise sharing in the deployment of microgrids in rural areas. I also met with my British counterpart, Secretary Ed Miliband, to follow up on my trip to London this past fall. We are pleased to announce that coming out of the discussions during that trip that have now turned into action, the Government of Canada is investing $15 million to support Kinectric's collaboration with the UK Atomic Energy Authority's Tritium facility. Kinectrix, a Canadian company headquartered in Toronto, is at the forefront of emerging fusion supply chains. Working with experts in the UK, they will advance Canadian and British research into fusion and create opportunities for Canadian businesses and workers. Finally, tomorrow we will be hosting the Canadian Critical Minerals Forum in Paris, which will bring together investors, industry, and government leaders with Canadian critical mineral opportunities, including shovel-ready projects for lithium, nickel, graphite, rare earths, scandium, titanium, and other battery materials. As I reflect on my time in Europe this week, it is clear Canada has what the world needs. Our allies want our reliable, low-carbon, low-cost products. We are building the infrastructure to make that possible at home and the trade links to get our exports to allies so we become a more secure, more sovereign, and stronger Canada. Thank you, merci, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now begin taking questions. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions. So we'll start with Aya Dufour. Aya, you can unmute your microphone.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Minister Hodgson, for taking our question. This is Aya Dufour with iPolitics. There's a recent report that came out saying offshore power in the Maritimes, it's an abundant resource. There's hundreds of gigawatts of potential generation there, but economics and infrastructure constraints could mean that only a fraction of that potential is eventually realized. What do you make of that report?
I haven't seen that report, but what I know is Nova Scotia right now has a process in place to solicit opportunities for 55 gigawatts of wind. That would be a huge resource to develop. And we're in active discussions with Nova Scotia about how we facilitate the development of that project.
Okay, and then for my follow-up question, when can we expect more referrals to the Major Projects Office, and what would that announcement look like?
As I've said many times, I learned a long time ago not to get ahead of my boss. The Prime Minister will decide when the next set of projects get announced from the Major Projects Office. But as you've seen in the past, there's been a sort of a regular cadence of that, and I would expect to see that that cadence continue.
Thank you, Aya. Next, we'll move to Michael Blanchfield. Hey, Michael, I see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. So we'll just move to the next one. We'll put you on mute now and let you sort that out, and I'll circle back to you after. So we'll go to Ryan Tumility next with the star.
Yeah, hi, Minister. You talked a little bit about promoting CANDO over in Poland. I'm wondering if the government, because there are Canadian utilities who are considering it, if the government is going to incentivize Canadian utilities to use CANDO over other countries' options.
It's up to proponents to choose the technology they want to use. In Canada, there are several proponents that are at early stages of talking about that. They will make the technology choice, not the government of Canada.
We're just over a month away from the deadlines, or from several of the deadlines that are in the MOU with Alberta. We've seen Premier Smith make some comments that she thinks maybe some of these targets are a bit too aggressive or too restrictive. I'm just wondering how you feel those negotiations are going, and if you think that April 1st deadline will be met.
As I said in my remarks in Calgary late last week, which is the last time I was in Canada, from everything I see, both the federal government and the Alberta government are fully committed to the process of executing the MOU against the timeline. Both parties are working in good faith to get there, as we all know. In doing deals, sometimes deals come right up to the deadline. Sometimes they go a little bit over the deadline. It's all about the good faith efforts of the two parties to get to a good conclusion. And from everything I see, we have two good faith parties in the case of Alberta and the federal government. And we've had active dialogues with the other stakeholders around the MOU.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll go to Max Paris next. We'll have time for one more after that.
Hi, Minister. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, how are you doing? Listen, yesterday, Minister McKinnon said your government expects a pipeline proposal for consideration to the MPO by this summer. Does that mean there's a proponent? That a company has been chosen to build a pipeline to the coast of BC?
Well, I've been in Europe, so I didn't see what Mr. McKinnon said, but what Alberta has said is they plan to be the proponent, and they plan to put forward a pipeline proposal by the summer. So that's what I suspect Minister McKinnon was referring to. But I've been out of the country. I didn't see what he said exactly.
Okay. The other thing I guess I want to ask you about has to do with the CANDO reactors. Who are our main competitors to sell nuclear reactors to the Poles, and how are you dealing with them? I guess I'm not quite sure how to put it, but like what kind of strategy do you have to deal with their sales pitch?
So, we're not making the sales pitch. The CANDO consortium is making the sales pitch. They would be leading the sales effort, and they would be designing the sales pitch against any competing companies. What Canada does is supports their technologies, and we are there to make clear that we stand beside our providers of nuclear technology, and where there is financing for Canadian content in those in those projects, we will support the companies through using things like Export Development Corp and other tools that we have to make the Canadian providers of nuclear technologies proposals attractive.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Let's go back to Mike Blanchfield.
Hi, Minister. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Minister, just want to ask you about the IAE chair summary that came out. Our colleagues in Paris report that climate change was not listed on the agency's priorities. Just wondering what you think about that, and what implications that has for net zero, and what the government's position was during the talks, which were apparently quite intense.
I think there was a little bit of hyperbole in your colleague's headline. I'll quote from the actual press release. A large majority of ministers stress the importance of energy transition to combat climate change and highlight the global transition to net zero. So I, quite frankly, think your colleague's headline is a little bit misleading.
Do you think we'll be seeing a national electricity strategy anytime soon?
The Prime Minister has indicated that we should expect that in the next few weeks, and so I would expect to see that relatively soon.
Okay, thanks for your question. I think we have time for one more, so we'll go to Ashok Dutta with S&P Global. Ashok, you're on mute.
Sorry, Minister, can you hear me now?
I can. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you for taking my question. I had a quick one. Minister, on your trip to Europe, are you picking up any buzz about interest for Canadian LNG, please?
I would say everywhere we go, I hear that countries understand that LNG is an important transition fuel to getting to net zero. I also hear everywhere I go that because of the significant increase in electricity demand, because of electrification, and also because of the wave of AI data centers being developed, that they need that transition fuel. They need more of it, and they need it for longer than they had thought in the past. What I hear in Europe specifically is Europeans felt like they were far overexposed to a hegemon called Russia. That energy from Russia was weaponized against them, and they are very keen to make sure they do not fall into a situation where they have dependence on any one supplier again. And so when they look at their options, they see Canada as a highly attractive supplier, a supplier that is reliable, a supplier that believes in free trade, a supplier that produces the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world. And if they have an opportunity to buy from us, they are keen to take that. So consistent with my trips to the UK, my trips to Germany, my colleagues' trips around Europe, my trip to Poland, my trip here, everyone is interested in our LNG.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're out of time. So I just want to remind the folks, if you have any more questions or follow-ups, please feel free to reach out to Media Relations or to the Minister's Press Secretary. This concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Go Team Canada.